All right. Thank you all. This is the post-lunch session. I'm assuming the energies are super high. Can I see a show of hands? Energy is high?
Yes.
Very nice. All right. I'm joined by my fellow speaker here, Rishi.
Hi all, great to be here. I was actually in the transformation zone and got stuck because they were launching a logo for the cricket league. I was not able to come out, so sorry for keeping you all waiting. I was really trying hard, but the doors were locked from outside. But great to be here, looking forward to the post-lunch session. Actually, we were given an option whether to do before lunch or post-lunch, right? Because both are tricky. We said, okay, let people have a good food, they'll be in good mood, and then we can have this face off. So thanks.
We have got a very interesting topic for you. It talks about accountability. And thank you to the MC. She had already warmed up the audience. And I hear some people say that the humans should remain responsible. But we are here to present different views. I will talk about why humans should be responsible. Rishi will talk about no, why should it be shared. But it's for all of us to decide on why it should be in a certain way or a different way. Let's get moving. This is how. Okay. All right. So when we think about the autonomous AI agents and the complexities that it has started to handle, the decision-making process that it is taking up now, what we are seeing is that there are more and more decisions being taken by AI. But is it really their decisions? Let's just be very clear. AI executes. Human is the one who decides. There is human behind who is setting up those design parameters. There is human who is setting up the deployment controls in which the AI system needs to operate. And that's extremely important for us to be cognizant of. Consider an example for a financial services firm, a fairly regulated industry. Think about a loan approval process. The AI system can approve those loans and assign some lines, but at the end of the day, the risk parameters, the customer segments are all being defined by humans. If the system is throwing abnormal results, it's creating bias in the population, you will not go back and say that it's because the AI system is failing. You will have to fall back on the humans who have to take the ownership and responsibility of why the parameters have been defined in that way. And that brings me to the second point, which is, does AI has any of its own intent? Does it have any moral judgment? No. It is the humans who are doing that. And if there is a bias being thrown out by the system, then it's the humans which are responsible. Humans are defining the objectives. Consider the example of a retail company which has implemented dynamic pricing. The sole objective of that is to maximize the revenue. But if it fails to do that, you are not going to fall back on the AI and say that, oh, it's the fault of the AI system. We are not able to achieve our objectives. At the end of the day, people who designed it are going to be responsible. And this brings me to the most important point, which is the risk of moral hazard. Are we going to shift the accountability and say that AI system has become responsible and we are not accountable for our own decisions? It's a very slippery slope. This is where the trust starts eroding, the governance collapses. It's very important for us to be grounded in terms of knowing who is doing what and who is being accountable for it. And finally, talking about the governance. I think the principle of governance is extremely important to follow. It starts with the three pillars, that who has the ownership, right from the stage of designing, developing and deployment. Every stage needs to have a clearly defined ownership on who is responsible for what. Second pillar is about auditability. What I mean by that is that you have to be able to trace back the decisions that are being made, why they are being made in a certain way and why not in a different way. And the third and the important pillar is oversight, which is that is there somebody who is governing it, not simply for the sake of doing it on paper, but from the perspective of creating enforceable controls. When we think again, for a scorecard development or model development process, the number one thing the banks ask us is that, okay, you have got autonomous agents which are developing these models, but can you explain to me the decisions that they are making? Why is a certain variable being treated in a certain way? Why not a different way? Why am I using X algorithm and not Y algorithm? What kind of model monitoring controls am I putting into place? Do I have enough documentation which I can showcase to my auditors? And we have tried and tested all controls and defined the decisions that are taking place. So it's extremely important that we keep the oversight, we keep the auditability, and we keep the accountability grounded to complete the principles of governance. Having said that, we cannot move away from the fact that more and more decisions are going to become autonomous. AI definitely helps execute at a much faster speed as compared to what humans can ever do. But it doesn't mean that we have to let go of the accountability. We have to absolutely own it. So the buck stops with human. Thank you.
Thank you, Darpan, for sharing the thoughts. And let me just take a call. How many people in the room actually feels that humans should take the accountability? Decent mix. Now a quick question. If you have to take the accountability, will you implement AI agents, if all the ownership, credit as well as blame is actually on you? I saw at least 50% of the hands went down. Right? The moment I asked that, will you take the blame? Right? At least 50% of the hands in the room just went down. I'll come to this point, but just keep it in your thoughts. So basically what we are trying to do, we are basically trying to identify today that who will we point fingers at. Right? If something goes wrong, who will we point fingers at? And is that the right way to start? Now, at the end, I'll just make 4 simple points and try to give my perspective of why the ownership should actually not be with a human. The first point is the opaque barrier. Many a times, I think we all understand that AI is a black box, right? Many a times. Now, if AI is a black box, it is doing its own algorithm, it's drawing its own pattern and coming to a conclusion. Will a human be able to identify why it took a particular decision? And I agree with Darpan that once a decision is made, you need to have traceability, you need to have accountability. But should a human take that traceability? Will you be able to do it? Will you be able to trace everything which is within an AI system, why they are doing? Is it humanly possible to do it? Any thoughts? Is it humanly possible to do it? No. The only way to do is only by leveraging other agents, right? Because that's what we are getting into. A work done by an agent is being reviewed by another agent. Because that's the only way possible. Now if you look at other point, the velocity gap. For a moment imagine that you as a human are able to take a judgment that whatever AI is doing is actually potentially can be monitored by a human. Just imagine for a sake. But with the human, will you be able to match the speed of it? The number of decisions that AI system is taken every second. Will a human be able to practically monitor it? It's not humanly possible. So what Darpan said is absolutely right. If you are using a hammer, because the hammer is being used by a human and he needs to take or she needs to take the accountability. It's still okay because if you are using a calculator, because calculator is not giving you any response of a question. It's only giving you a response of the question that you are asking. It's not thinking on its own behalf. It's not trying to identify the own patterns. So yes, it is relevant, but that's past. In future, the way, the speed with which AI is getting into everything, be it algo trading, be it, again going back to the same examples, whom to give loan and whom not to give loans. Yes, a human agent, a human person can actually train the agents better. It can give feedback, but the accountability cannot be with the person. Third, this same debate also came at the time of organizations, right? There are many a times where a particular organization is considered to be a perfect legal entity, right? That's a proven fact. Human are separate from an organization, right? There are people who run the organization, but they are, organization is a legal entity. So I think something similar we'll have to do from an agentic entity perspective. Yeah, that, and legally it's already happening. You have to just ensure the way you are running an organization. Similarly, the accountability can be with a particular agent. Now, what it means that if something goes wrong within an organization, you can sue the organization and you can get potentially financial penalties and the organization needs to pay. Something similar, that if there is a particular accountability on AI as an entity or AI as an organization, in this case, the corrective measures can be either you stop that particular agent or you, like we do with humans, right? You send them to a rehab center so that they train. So in this case, you have to focus and ensure that you are training them much better. So all those measures need to come into force. All those measures need to come into force to see that how can there be corrective action on a particular agentic entity. I hope I am not running over time, that's why you are stopping me. And the last point is this: you need to ensure that when you are designing, when you are experimenting, when you are innovating, obviously you need to ensure that the particular AI agent meets the business objective, but at the same time the safety is inbuilt. Right? What I was talking, the maker-checker balance needs to be within the agentic AI framework, and that's where the real innovation will be able to blossom, because else, as I just asked in the beginning, how many people will actually take the ownership of implementing innovation, of implementing agentic AI, if they know that tomorrow if something goes wrong, people will come and really ensure that the responsibility is with them, and that could have any kind of repercussions. It will basically, if there is a personal risk involved, it will be killing innovation. So what we need to ensure is that move from personal risk to entity risk, so that instead of killing innovation, you are managing innovation. So I would strongly suggest that yes, in past, let human be responsible, but practically from a future perspective, it needs to be at an entity level, at an AI agent entity level, the risk needs to be managed. That's my point. Thank you. Any questions, any thoughts, views, counter views? Yes.
So you said the entity should be responsible, but entity is also managed by humans, right? So tomorrow the action could be against the humans as well. So what is the difference between the entity and the humans? So what are the contradictory thoughts probably coming out?
It's the same difference which is between a legal corporate entity when you have established versus the person or a promoter of that entity. So to give you an example, if a human is held accountable, maybe the person can lose the job, or there can be, I don't know if it's severe, maybe if it's a civil charge, criminal charge, the person can be sent to jail, right? Or there can be a very specific individual penalty, right? Commercial penalty. But if it is agency, then the impact is not on the human, the impact is on the AI agent. So either you ensure that that agent is no longer will be in force, you stop that agent, or you have a penalty on the organization who created that agent, right? So it's like a fine on the organization, not on the individual who was using it. So because the intent is the punishment, the intent is not to give punishment, the intent is always to take a corrective action. So here we'll have to think through what is the corrective action. There can also be a concept, and which is pretty new in the system, it's called like no fault insurance, right? Where if something goes wrong because of leveraging, so any organization who is leveraging agentic AI, they kind of also pay a insurance premium. So if something goes wrong, they are covered by, they cover themselves against the financial penalties through the insurance organization. So it's a new concept which is coming because the entire field is evolving, and that's the primary difference.
But don't you think it's indirectly again, related to human, because whether I'm doing it directly to the agent or maybe to the agent?
See, it's about where the accountability lies, right? As an individual, as a human, it's the same concept which you have for a legal corporate entity, right? When an organization does something wrong, you don't sue the individual, you sue the organization. While behind it's still the individual, but we don't call it that we are suing the individual. Because if you start holding the individual accountable, it can lead to very personal, I would say, impact, right? And that's why people will stop trying it. The moment they feel that I'll be personally liable, I have to pay for my pocket, or if there is something goes wrong, I might be even jailed, people will stop, or they will not experiment, which will eventually ensure that there is not much innovation.
I'll just conclude this as time is also up. I think at the end of the day, when you are in an era of autonomous agents, you are in an era where the speed of innovation has to be accelerated. You cannot stand back, right? Maybe what we can agree upon is that there have to be sound governance principles which need to be in place, establishing clear ownership, establishing auditability, which means that you can trace all your decisions, and creating that oversight which governs all actions. And that's where the accountability will get established. Thank you so much for your time.